Hello everyone, welcome to Gen Recaps, and today we are going to talk about episode 3, Outlander season 6, and this episode was packed with so many moments, and honestly, I am impressed that they worked all of that into the shortest episode of the season so far. Yeah, this one was just like about a little over an hour, and the other ones have been about like an hour and a half. But yeah, this one had a lot going on in it, and just so many intense moments, so many revelations, and apparently another key word from this episode is book. So yes, join me and let us discuss episode 3, and our episode is called Temperance. So we immediately jump into the action of the episode where poor Henri-Christian is in the river, just floating down the rapids, and almost falls off a waterfall, but thankfully Roger was there to save him. And apparently it was the kids from the Protestant families who decided to set him in the river, and unfortunately and surprisingly, Germain, his older brother, was a part of it. I was honestly surprised by that, and I assume this happened in the book too, but I never heard about that detail. So yeah, they were in trouble. Thankfully, Roger gives him a quick little baptism and says that they can no longer harm the child. And they do eventually get punished, but Jamie actually gives them a choice. Either you can touch the child, who will do you no harm, or, if you're that superstitious, touch the burning hot poker. Thankfully, they did not do that. They did touch the baby, and they realized, oh, yeah, he's harmless. But yeah, that poor kid. Unfortunately, this sets Fergus off because he really is going through a tough time believing that he cannot protect his family. And this only proves it further that his son is going to have a troubling life. You never really want that for your child. And that is really eating at Fergus. And although he has promised Marsali that he's not going to drink, unfortunately she does return home one night and he is basically getting drunk. And honestly, this scene, now we have never seen a scene like this between Fergus and Marsali. Maybe they've had like short little teeny tiny spats or disagreements, but this one was intense. But yeah, Fergus is sitting there drinking, neglecting the children, and Marsali is trying to point out, like, you can't protect us if you're drunk. If that's what's bothering you, getting drunk isn't the answer. And she then points out to him that she killed Lionel Brown because he wants to protect her from men like him. And this actually surprised me. Apparently, Fergus didn't know that she killed Lionel. I somehow thought he would have known. But yeah, that was apparently a secret that she kept from him. So that was shocking. And this actually sets him off even more, and he says a very sexist line that he doesn't need a woman to protect him. And Marsali gets so fed up with him, she pours a drink on him and tells him to get out. She will have a whole man or no man at all. Oh, but man, that fight between them, we have, like I said, never seen anything like that before. That scene was just so heartbreaking, and the way Fergus reacted, yeah, you can blame the booze, but that was just so sexist of him. I was surprised, honestly. And I know men like that were at the time, but, you know, Fergus is usually like this sweet, thoughtful husband. It's just such a turn to see him act and think that way. But yeah. And unfortunately, the troubles continue for Fergus. Fergus notices that this couple is glancing at him very disapprovingly, and this is one of the Protestant families. I wasn't sure at first, but yes, one of the Protestant families that is with Tom Christie's group, and they are very, very awful towards him because when Fergus confronts them, the wife mentions, only because of your drunkenness, but while we're talking about it, your child is grotesque. Excuse me? I honestly would have fought back at her too. So yeah, this sets him off. He throws a drink in her face and her husband attacks him, and it just all blows into chaos. But amazingly, Tom Christie steps in and says that we should not think this way and act this way towards any of the Frasers. So they actually back off. And I was honestly surprised that Tom Christie said that. He's a curious man. We'll get into his arc in a little bit. But yeah. So Fergus is just feeling more and more useless and beaten down by everything, and this is when it gets into a really dark part of the episode. So if you guys do not want to hear this part, I understand. You can skip ahead. I will try to give you a time if I can. If not, at least a couple, 3 minutes. So yeah, Fergus actually attempts to kill himself. He begins to slit his wrist, and thankfully Jamie was nearby and saw what was happening, and he immediately stopped him. And just this moment, Jamie is such a father to Fergus in this moment, and we do not see enough of that. If you can hear meowing in the background, that is my cat Lily. I apologize. Yeah, just this father-son moment between them that we do not often see. And it was just so heartbreaking because Fergus feels so useless, and he thinks Marsali and the children need a better man, and just so sad. But thankfully Jamie is able to talk to him. He tells him all that he has done for the family, keeping the family together when he was at Ardsmuir, and just basically helping him get through Claire being gone while he was at the print shop, and it's just this beautiful moment that they have together. But yeah, that was a hard scene. When the episode began, there was a warning that there was going to be suicide in the episode, and I had honestly forgotten about that warning until that moment happened. And when I saw Fergus crouching down and looking up so hopeless, I knew that was the moment. And but yeah, it's not an easy situation for him, but I am so glad that Jamie was able to convince him to keep going. And he and Claire do bring Fergus back to Marsali, and they actually make up. So I don't know if this is the end of their troubles, but at least for now, they're at least starting to get in a better place. Which I'm rooting for them. I believe in the books things do get better. And, well, for a time anyway. I'm gonna try not to spoil anything. Though Fergus does worry about Henri-Christian, about having a good future, he does love him, and he is going to be there for him as his mind starts to get to a better place. And I just think that was such a very powerful episode for Fergus and Marsali. Just watching how it was beginning in episode 1 and where it ended up in this episode, that was really, and it's just a very interesting build-up to see where it led, and hopefully, like I said, things are going to get better for them, at least for now. I mentioned Tom Christie earlier, and oh, this man is something. So he decided in the last episode that he wants to get the operation done on his hand, basically so he can use it to punish Malva, which, mission accomplished. But yeah, he has the surgery done, and he decides against the ether, which Claire would have given him, but he just wants his prayers to comfort him and guide him through the pain, which he really, really struggles with. I mean, that's fair. You're not going to take pain like that easily. Honestly, that scene was hard to watch. If you guys have ever watched Grey's Anatomy or any shows where they cut things open and you see things, ugh, I feel it in my hand. But yeah. So he does have the operation, he struggles a little bit, but Jamie actually continues reading from the book for him, and it was just a very interesting dynamic to see Jamie helping out. He, for obvious reasons, doesn't like Tom Christie. We understand why. But yeah, it was just interesting that Jamie was able to put aside the differences and actually help Tom out, giving him what he needed, or what he thought he needed. But yeah, Tom gets really weird in this episode. I feel like I heard that Tom develops feelings for Claire, and I could kind of sense that while I was watching the episode, and I'm not a fan of it, to be honest, because they are clearly two completely different minds, first of all. Second of all, she's married to Jamie, happily married to Jamie. I am sorry, my cat keeps meowing. Hopefully you guys can't hear that, but just in case. But yeah. Tom is just kind of talking to Claire like he's confiding in her more than you'd think he would. And at one point, while she's trying to comfort him, like making sure he moves his hand properly so it can regain its proper movement, he tells her like he's an educated man and he's not that superstitious and he doesn't believe she's a witch. Not that he doesn't believe in witches, but he doesn't believe she's a witch. So that was like my first line of suspicion, like, what does he mean by that? With Tom Christie, you cannot let any line go. But yeah, I don't know where they're going with it, and I don't know if I like it. He does actually get a book from Claire at one point, and he takes it home to read it, and it offends him greatly. At one point. This was actually kind of funny. He leaves the book for Claire. I don't know if he gave it to her at some point or she just magically has it again. And she opens it up and there's a note inside that says, "This is filth. I thought you were better than this." I thought that was funny, and apparently Claire did too. She had a good laugh also. But yeah, I'm getting mixed signals from Tom Christie. I don't know what he was expecting from her. But yeah. He's a very strange, Sad little man. If we're gonna quote Toy Story here. We do see Malva in this episode. She is actually watching the surgery happening from the window, and young Ian actually approaches her, and he even calls her Claire's apprentice, which she gets enjoyment out of that. Good enjoyment. Who's to say? But she and young Ian actually bond a little bit in this episode. We get to see them talk a couple of times, and she actually tells him about her mother, basically that she was hanged as a witch, which kind of might explain a lot of things about Tom Christie, like why he keeps calling her mother wicked. There's your answer. But also it might explain why Malva is the way she is. And she might seem sweet and innocent now, but just you wait. Just you wait. It's not gonna play out too well if they go by the book. Don't look forward to that. Jamie also finds Malva in the woods at one point, and they get to talking, and honestly, another thing from the books you guys should be aware of is Malva does develop feelings for Jamie. So the second I saw them on screen alone together, I think at this point it's safe to say where this is all going. So yeah. Malva is another complex character, which we're gonna get to know her more. We're starting to delve a little more into her history, but she's not gonna stay that sweet and innocent character that we really, really wish she would. She's just not. Something we have to make peace with, unfortunately. Mainly, what happened in the episode, there were some nice moments between Brianna and Marsali. They really have this sisterly bond that you just do not get to see too much of, and every time they're on screen together and talking to each other, you feel how much that they trust each other, how close they are, and I think that's really beautiful. I want to see more of that. And then Roger was also comforting Aiden's mother. She's struggling with living in the situation that they're in, but Roger is really just, he's being everyone's rock this season, which I like to see that. I did not like season 4 Roger, I'm sorry, but I didn't. He was this weird transition between sweet, kind, innocent Roger to this current, like, rock solid, I got your back, Roger. But yeah, I like seeing how his character has developed so much, and he's really stepping into a role on the Ridge, which is nice, because at one point he really didn't know what his place was, and it seems like he is going to be the pastor of the church, which does happen in the books. And yeah, he's finding his calling, which is great. As far as everything goes, oh, of course, I have to talk about this. So yeah, between all the drama that was going on, all the questionable mannerisms of Tom and Malva, we, at the end, get to see Major M show up, and he has brought the guns that the Cherokee have requested. So unfortunately, that means it has begun, especially when Claire sees the article about the Boston Harbor. The Tea Party has happened. It's a mad, mad Tea Party. Basically, we know where this is going. We just, as our characters, don't enjoy this. We also don't enjoy seeing that everything's unraveling and going as planned, because, like I mentioned, they do not know entirely how this plays out. They don't know what their part or their role is supposed to be in all of this, and one false move could mess things up. And it's kind of ironic how when you try to change history, it doesn't work out, and it plays out the way it's supposed to, but when you want things to go the way they're supposed to, you could mess it up. Time travel rules, I guess. But yeah, we are watching the American Revolution unfold, and it is going to be interesting to see how this all plays out for the rest of the season. I know at one point there is an episode called The World Turned Upside Down. I don't know if that's a Hamilton reference, but I would like to think it is. I have actually been talking with my friend, and we're wondering, is it possible Hamilton could make an appearance in this season? Or during some point of the war? Because, well, we saw Washington. We could see Hamilton. Also, since the books have been written, Hamilton the musical has been such a big success, and we've learned so much about him, so I wouldn't be surprised if they do work that into the show. I personally think that would be really cool. I don't know if they'll be in like the right place, right time with him, but they could make things work, you never know. I also just wanted to throw my 2 cents in here and say, I personally enjoy when they change the theme song every season. I know some people don't, and I get it, because a lot of shows oftentimes they don't do that, but I like that it shows, like it reflects what each season is going to be like. I feel like when they change the theme song and the style that it's in, it just kind of reflects the evolving plot, and I think that's really cool, and it works for me. I like hearing what each season is going to sound like and how it reflects the plot throughout the whole season. So yeah, I enjoyed the French version. I enjoyed hearing the drums in the background during season 3. I enjoyed hearing the bluegrass version when they came to America in season 4. It works to me. That is my opinion. It's okay if you guys have your opinions too. I just wanted to throw in my 2 cents. Alright, thank you guys for joining me for discussing episode 3. Again, if you have any thoughts on the episode, if you want to talk about future possible plot lines that are going to happen, please go ahead and give a comment. I would love to discuss that with you. And yeah, I will see you for episode 4, which looks to be very interesting, also a little intense. We apparently see Ian has an issue with his Mohawk brothers, so maybe we'll finally learn what happened with his family. But yeah, that'll be interesting. I'm curious to learn. Have a good day, and I will see you next week for episode 4.